Original Sword Art Online is better because Kirito is so cool. Ah. Alternative GGO is so much better because it's not written by Kawahara. Ah. SAO protagonists have plot armor. Nothing bad happens to them ever. Ah. Let's drop the bullshit arguments to impress 10-year-olds on the internet, shall we? If you'd look for a review of Sword Art Online Alternative GGO on YouTube, you're likely to find two opposite ends of the spectrum. For some reason, every reviewer wants to compare AGGO to the main series of SAO, but most of them find themselves at a very hard dilemma that is described in this simple meme. They either praise Alternative GGO for the sole purpose of indirectly shitting on the main series SAO, or they just shit on AGGO to be able to shit on the brand that is SAO. Well, you can see the common point of the two endpoints of the spectrum. That is the spectrum of how can I hate on Sword Art Online. They're also hell-bent on this purpose that they do not even realize the fact that the two series are not directly comparable, almost to a point where they are a different genre. But hey, aren't both of them sci-fi action shows, gamer? I feel like you're doing a bit of a stretch here. Oh, I can see why you can be confused. That's mainly because none of these reviewers actually review much, but rather share their opinions on things. Because if they actually reviewed the thing, rather than trying to ride a hate train, you know, maybe they would have mentioned the simple difference between the two shows, but instead all they say is either apples are better than oranges, or just both apples and oranges are bad. I hate fruit in general. Now, before I begin, I'd like to point out that your opinion is yours and yours only. I'm not here to convince you to love main series SAO if you don't like it. I'm not gonna try to persuade you into thinking AGGO is amazing. How much value you find in a product depends on your personal preferences. I'm merely here to point out what no other quote-unquote reviewer pointed out so far, because they're driving their own personal agendas. Anyways, back to that simple difference that I was talking about. That difference is what drives the story and the development of individual personalities in both series. Sword Art Online main series is an adventure-driven story where the adventure itself shapes a character. Meanwhile, on the other side, Alternative GGO is a character-driven story where the adventure is shaped by the main character instead. Stay with me on this. I'm gonna start with the main series Sword Art Online. At the beginning of Aincrad, we do not know much about Kirito's personality aside from the fact that he is an avid gamer who feels more alive in the virtual world than he does in the real one. That's literally the only information we're given about him, and honestly, that is all we need to know in his instance based on that story. And of course, we all know what happens right afterwards. Kayaba traps the entire Aincrad population in the game. Kirito was effectively put into an adventure he did not wish for himself, and the adventure he was put in shapes his personality throughout. Same thing can be said for the future arcs as well. It always follows this same pattern. Asuna is trapped, so Kirito has to step up. In Phantom Bullet, Deathgun is killing people, and Kikoka, in the name of the government, asks him to investigate, so again, he has to step up. In Alicization, well, let's not go there before the anime even started. In the main series Sword Art Online, things happen to Kirito which Kirito finds himself in a spot to react to. He finds himself in situations where he needs to thrive by learning and adapting, which shapes himself as a character over time. The only arc where the main protagonist actively pursues the story they want is Mother's Rosario, where Asuna takes an active lead for her personal reasons, hence why most people approach that specific arc very differently than they do to other arcs. Some short-sighted people claim that Mother's Rosario is a much better story because it has less Kirito in it, but that's completely absurd. The difference is not that there is less Kirito on screen, the difference is that Reki Kawahara is trying a different perspective of storytelling in this short story. Aside from Mother's Rosario, the focal driving point of any story is the adventure itself rather than the protagonist. It is the adventures that made Kirigaya Kazuto into Kirito. Heck, if I'd go a bit deeper to highlight a point, in a priority ranking in terms of focus of the story, the adventure takes the top spot by being the driving factor of said story. The VR world takes the second spot, hence why we never go too much into detail of each world, and character takes the third spot on this priority ranking, where the character is affected by the story revolving around him, and he only experiences parts of the games that are vital to his isolated adventure. This is also the reason why people assume Kirito is a blank slate, because not many people enjoy reading into things, but how Kirito develops throughout the series is an entirely different topic. I can make a whole video about that and still not be done with it. So, before I compare this ranking to Alternative GGO, let's first contrast our entry to this spin-off series. We have a character that is established as a rich university student who is shy due to her personal insecurities based on her past, and one day she finally decides to take action. She decides using Gun Gale Online as a tool to overcome her insecurities, and instead of being affected by one random adventure itself, she is the one who creates the adventure and actively shapes the adventure instead, while beating her insecurities throughout. LLENN is the one shaping the adventure, while Kirito is the one being shaped by the adventure. And to bring back the priority ranking from earlier, compared to the main series, Alternative GGO holds their characters in the first place, making them the focal driving part of the story. In the first arc, the entire story is driven by LLENN, while the second arc is driven by LLENN and Pitohui both. The overall adventure is so inconsequential compared to the personal story thread driving both Karen and Elsa that even said quote-unquote adventure comes to an end in such an anticlimactic way. Meanwhile, the world takes the second spot again. Similar to the main series, the VR world Gun Gale Online is just a tool that is used to make the story happen. But how is that tool used exactly? Well, the answer is clear from this priority ranking picture. In the main series SAO, the VR world is mostly a tool to tell the adventure, so most things are glossed over as we experience the parts of the world that are brought up by the adventure affecting our protagonist. Going over to the AGGO side, the VR world is a tool for these characters to deal with their personal issues. LLENN is much more of an active participant in the world due to her being the driving factor of the story, hence why we get to learn a lot about the world of Gun Gale Online, simply because we follow the character instead of the adventure, and that provides more opportunities to expand the world. Meanwhile, Kirito, yeah, he is still an active protagonist, don't get me wrong. He is taking various different actions after the initial push, but he still stands at a much more passive point, since it's the adventure that is the focal point the story is presenting, in the end leading us to see the world in a much more limited way. So, long story short, while Alternative GGO is much more of a character story featuring an adventure in a VR setting, main series SAO is an adventure story featuring characters in a VR setting. All in all, it's not that one is better than the other, they are simply not comparable directly. It is just that both series have different focal points and a different narrative structure, and you just prefer one type of narrative, which is perfectly fine. Everybody enjoys their own thing, and there is no reason to shit on different opinions. Anyways, this was a different kind of analysis video compared to my, explained videos that I did over the course of AGGO, so feel free to provide feedback. Do you agree with my perspective that, both series are trying to convey a different storytelling structure and that structure coming with its natural pros and cons, or do you feel like what I said was a total stretch? Let me know what you think in the comments. Also, do keep in mind that what I talked about in this video, obviously, it's not the sole difference between the series. There are naturally other criticisms or praises to be made for both Sword Art Online and Alternative GGO, much like any other work of fiction everywhere. But, rather this was my take on the main difference between the storytelling of both series. If you enjoyed this, likes are always appreciated. I have no plans of making a quote-unquote review styled video for AGGO, so over the summer what you can expect from me is one what is Sword Art Online Alicization video, similar to my introduction video to AGGO, where I tell you about the basics of Alicization without touching the spoilers, which is gonna be a hard task, so I'm gonna be taking my time with it. I'm expecting to upload that video around mid-August. As for the rest of the summer, I'll be talking about the anime series I watched throughout my life. Some I really enjoyed, some I was indifferent to, and some that just pushed me away midway. There won't be reviews per se, I'll just be sharing my very personal perspective in that series, and the comments will be more of a discussion with you guys as to if you enjoyed those series or not, and of course what kind of perspective you had when you watched them. Naturally, Sonic Mania Plus is coming out next week, so you can expect a playthrough of that, obviously. As for the rest of the summer, I'll probably upload a playthrough of a non-Sonic and non-Sword Art Online game playthrough. That Uncharted 3 has been sitting in my drawer for long enough. As usual, huge thanks to my patrons Tiffany and Candela Shred, who have been directly supporting my channel for 8 months and 2 months respectively. I hope you guys enjoyed the videos I have planned for the upcoming weeks. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.